The world's first terrorist was an Iranian of Persian descent. His name was Hassan Sabah and the founder of the Ismaili Nizari sect. He was the founder of the dreaded Hashishin organization in 1090 AD. This video is an excerpt from Hassan Sabah's life. Hassan Sabah was born in the Shia family of 12 imams in the city of Qom. There is not much information about Sabah's childhood. His father, Ali bin Muhammad bin Jafar Sabah Hamri, was from the people of Kufa, but he claimed that he was descended from a Yemeni Hamri. Hassan was educated in Ray as a 12er Imam Shia, but after meeting Amira Zarab and Abu Nasr Siraj, he converted to the Ismaili religion and was noticed by Abd al-Malik bin Atash, the great preacher of Iraq Ajam. Until he was 30 years old, he completed his education by traveling to Egypt and became aware of the situation of the Fatimid Caliphate. After returning from Egypt, Hassan Sabah began to preach and promote the principles of the Ismaili religion and libertarian ideas as the Imam's authority in the plateau of Iran. And he went to different places including Gorgan, Sari and Damavand. Hassan Sabah was an amazing face. He created a sect that struck terror in the hearts of all his opponents and chose a way to propagate and spread his cult that became a model for many fundamentalists and terrorists in later centuries. Because of Ismailia, fear was found in the hearts, and for almost 200 years, the backs of the kings and the foundations of the kingdoms were shaking from them. 50,000 devotees who gave their lives and took it were the same for them. They appeared in all shapes and forms. Their leader can be fairly said to be the bandit. Hassan Sabah is a very mysterious and strange figure in the history of Iran and Islam. He created a sect that can be called the world's first terrorist organization. Many of the tricks of brainwashing and terror and cult of personality that are used today by fundamentalist groups such as the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant and the Taliban have their roots in Hassan Sabah's methods. He believed that his way is the way of truth, and against the truth, the life and property of no human being is valuable. For this reason, killing people, including women and children, was like drinking water for Hassan Sabah and his followers. The devotees of Hassan Sabah were willing to do the most brutal acts possible and take their own and others' lives with the guidance of their leader. That is why Hassan Sabah is the spiritual father of all the charismatic leaders of murderous and oppressive sects that operate in the name of religion. It is not possible to know Hassan Sabah without knowing his religion, the Ismaili religion. The Ismailis were the largest organized Iranian sect in the Middle Ages, whose beliefs lasted for 400 years in Iran, and many intellectual figures in the history of Iran, including Sheikh al-Rais Abu Ali Sina, Abu Rayhan Buryuni, Nasser Khosrow, and others, were influenced by Ismaili beliefs. Ismailia was a mysterious sect that mixed the atheistic beliefs of the ancient world with the Shia religion, which can be seen in the personality and teachings of Hassan Sabah. The principles of their beliefs were based on the sanctity of the number 7, which was a sacred number for them. The Ismailis took their name from the son of the sixth Imam of the Shiites. The sixth Imam had a son named Ismail, whom the Ismailis considered to be his father's rightful successor. They were of the opinion that the Imam is right after Ismail, and since he is the seventh Imam, the end of the line of Imams is considered the successor of the Prophet. They believed in the emergence of Imam Zaman, and Hassan Sabah himself emphasized on this. Hassan Sabah kept repeating that reason is not a good guide for a person and that a person should have a teacher for guidance and happiness, which is the teacher of Imam Zaman. This teaching also fueled the personality cult, which Hassan Sabah could use well. In Islam, it is stated that the Imam of time is the one who will appear with Jesus. The numbers 5, 7, 12, 24 and 30 were sacred to them. The number 7 was a special value. They said that the existence of 7 heavens and 7 earths and 7 verses in Surah Al-Fatiha and 7 organs in the body and 7 cavities in the human face are a sign of the special importance of the number 7. Hassan Sabah was born about 3 centuries after Ismailia was founded, and although he was loyal to the principles of Ismailia, he created several heresies in it. Hassan Sabah was in Egypt when he became inclined towards Ismailia, and when the Ismailis of Egypt split into two factions, he took the side of Nizar, who was the successor of Hujjat of the Ismailis of al-Mustansar. Nizar was killed in Alexandria, and his successor was none other than Hassan Sabah, who went on to become the most powerful Ismaili leader. He built his belief system based on Nizar's views on Ismailia and created a terrorist organization to eliminate his opponents. After completing his primary education, Hassan went to Nishabur to study under Imam Muwaffaq, a Hadith cleric. Imam Muwaffaq had deep relations with the people in power, in such a way that Seljuk Tugrul considered him as his leader. Anyone who was favored by Imam Muwaffaq and became his student easily infiltrated the royal apparatus of Seljuk and reached important positions. After finishing his studies and approaching the Imam, Hassan Sabah succeeded in penetrating the Seljuk court. From the very beginning of the work, a severe enmity arose between Hassan Sabah and Khawaja Nizam al-Mulk. The reason for this enmity was the difference in religion between the two. Khawaja Nizam was a Sunni Shafi'i religion and Hassan Sabah was an Ismaili. Khawaja warned Farafik about the danger of the presence of Rafizians and al-Batan in the court, and Hassan Sabah also stood in front of him. Khawaja Nizam hit the Ismailis and Shiites wherever he could, and Hassan Sabah waited for an opportunity to overthrow this powerful man. After Hassan Sabah's relationship with the Seljuk court became cold, he left for Egypt, which was the main center of the Ismailis at that time. When Hassan Sabah arrived in Cairo, he was warmly welcomed by the caliph. But Hassan Sabah, who expected the Fatimid caliph to be a pious person, saw a frivolous caliph who only thought about having fun and was not worthy to succeed Ali ibn Abi Talib in any way. This disillusioned Hassan Sabah, who had a dry and religious spirit, and encouraged him to leave Egypt and return to Iran. On his return, he went to Isfahan because Isfahan was the center of gathering of Shiites. There he immediately started religious propaganda and encouraged the Ismailis to follow Nizar. After a short stay in Isfahan, he left for Yazd and other Iranian cities and continued Kurd propaganda. His travels were secret, and due to his charismatic personality, he gathered loyal followers in all these cities. He trained many disciples and missionaries who penetrated in all the cities of Iran, and in addition to promoting his religion, he also opposed the Seljuk government. After returning from Egypt, Hassan Sabah spent 10 years in this way, and by living in secret, he spread a coherent network of missionaries and followers of his religion in different cities. He had also converted the elders of other religions to his religion, and this made the followers of those religions more and more under the influence of Hassan Sabah's missionaries. After gaining many followers throughout Iran, Hassan Sabah thought of an uprising and proposed a revolutionary slogan: "Attack the fortresses." Hassan Sabah chose Alamat Castle as the headquarters, because it was an inaccessible fortress and the Seljuks could not easily capture it. Alamat Castle was almost in ruins at that time, and Hassan Sabah ordered his followers to rebuild it. Jamie Al-Tawarik describes Alamat Castle as follows: "It was a very strong castle, although its buildings were old and had a musty air due to lack of water, except for a small spring that did not follow the flow of small water." Sayyidna said that they brought water to Alamat, and for many days they visited it from the borders of Alamat, and they planted crops around it and planted gardens and roses. Because of this, the air of Alamat became pleasant. Alamat was under the control of Seljuk soldiers before its capture by the Ismailis. Hassan Sabah cleverly captured all of it. The guardians of Alamat Castle were influenced by Hassan Sabah's teachings and converted to Ismailia and opened the way for Hassan Sabah. Hassan Sabah also went to the fort and asked the owner to sell him land equal to a cow's hide so that he would not prey in the usurped property. Then he cut the cow's skin into small strands and dragged it around the castle, and with the help of this Sharia fraud, he expelled the owner of the castle and took possession of the place. Hassan Sabah preached to his superstitious followers that the word Alamat is calculated as Al-Shari 483, that is, in the same year, he captured Alamat and derived his legitimacy from this. Ismailis were particularly interested in Al-Shari numbers and other superstitious games, and for this reason, they considered all random events to be wise by turning them into code numbers. As soon as Hassan Sabah settled in Alamut, he arranged defense arrangements for it. The Seljuk government and its powerful minister Nizam al-Mulk also tried to destroy Hassan and his followers. Malik Shah Seljuk first sent representatives to Hassan Sabah to persuade him peacefully. But Hassan sent a message to the king that really struck fear into the hearts of his courtiers and soldiers: "Tell Malik Shah not to harm me, otherwise I will line up against him, and let him know that his troops are strong enough to resist against devotees do not have me, because every one of my soldiers is incomparable in favor, and killing and being killed are the same for them." It is said that Hassan Sabah summoned 3 of his followers in order for the Shah's representatives to understand the seriousness of his words. One of them was ordered to kill himself with a dagger, another was ordered to throw himself from the top of the castle, and the third was ordered to drown himself in water. All 3 immediately obeyed Hassan's order without asking the reason for these actions. The king's representatives were horrified to see such a scene and were surprised by the depth of his influence over his followers. The armies that Malik Shah sent to capture Alamut Castle were also defeated, and Hassan Sabah's words came true. Hassan Sabah was a charismatic figure. He had a strange influence on people. When he gave a speech, his followers wept upon hearing every word, and when he gave someone an order, he obeyed immediately. Hassan Sabah's devotees were scattered all over the country, and with a dagger they hid in their clothes. They could kill anyone Hassan Sabah wanted. Their way for assassination operations was very similar to martyrdom operations. When a devotee returned alive from the mission, his mother and family mourned and considered it a great loss that he was not killed on the road to Hassan Sabah. They considered the truth of the universe as Hassan Sabah and called themselves mystical. This astonishing influence had caused Western historians to rumor that Hassan Sabah gave his followers hashish and psychedelic substances, and for this reason they called the Ismailis the Order of Assassins, or as they say in English. After gaining this victory, the Ismailis tried to capture other castles as well. Hassan Sabah sent his followers to Kahestan and Khan Lanjan and captured 2 forts there. Soon Lemsur fortress was captured and Hassan Sabah's devotees settled in them. Now Hassan Sabah had established himself as a spiritual and political leader, and the time had come for him to terrorize the whole country through his amazing killing organization. Assassinations of Hassan Sabah. The first famous victim of Hassan Sabah's assassinations was Muazzin Savji. Muazzin Savji was a ruler in Isfahan who ordered the arrest of the Ismailis, and for this reason one of Hassan Sabah's followers named Tahir Najjar killed him. Nizam al-Mulk ordered Tahir Najjar to be executed for the crime of this murder and his body to be brought back to the city as a public lesson. But this work was not only a lesson to others, but among the Ismailis they honored him like a real martyr, and his family celebrated the occasion of the death of their son. The next target was Kaj Nizam al-Mulk. Hassan Sabah hated him since his youth, and this powerful minister was considered the greatest opponent of Ismailia. Malik Shah Seljuk, who was afraid of the increasing power of Kaj Nizam al-Mulk, dismissed him from the ministry, but he was still among his subordinates. Malik Shah and Qaja Nizam were on their way to Baghdad, when one of Butahir Irani's devotees went to Qaja Nizam under the pretext of a letter and cut his artery with a dagger. The news of Qaja Nizam's murder that reached Hassan Sabah made him happy and addressed his followers said, "Killing this devil is the beginning of happiness." After that, the Ismailis killed many others in the same way. Bernard Lewis writes about this: in the terrifying and calculated war that the Ismailis started, the killing of Khawaja Nizam was the first attack in a long series of attacks that sultans, emirs, leaders, rulers, and even a group of jurists and religious scholars who believed in the Ismailis rejected and declared their killing permissible. They were exposed to the daggers of the devotees. Malik Shah Seljuk died 40 days after the murder of Qaja Nizam. His death caused the court and the central government to riot, and in the meantime Hassan Sabah increased his power. Berkiyar, his successor, started an all-out fight against the Ismailis. The jurists of the Shafi'i religion also issued a fatwa for jihad against them. Many Ismaili followers were executed, and the Ismailis also assassinated many Shafi'i leaders and jurists. But Burki-Arq, who was at war with his brothers, was unable to suppress Hassan Sabah. Burki-Arq died of tuberculosis at the age of 25 and Sultan Sanjar took his place. Sanjar, who was aware of Hassan Sabah's power and influence, tried to make peace with him. Hassan Sabah had scared him through the many spies he had in the Seljuk court. Hassan Sabah ordered his spies to insert a dagger next to the king's bed, and when Sanjar woke up and saw the naked dagger next to his bed, he realized Hassan Sabah's influence in the court and made peace with him out of fear. In addition to him, other rulers and even jurists did not sleep well because of the fear of Hassan Sabah and his devotees, and even some of them slept with their armor and helmets. After Sultan Sanjar, Malik Shah Seljuk decided to capture Alamat castle and kill Hassan Sabah, and his troops besieged Alamat. Hassan Sabah sent his family from Alamat to the surrounding villages to live by spinning like others, and he himself engaged in fighting the Seljuk forces. This long siege cost a lot to the Seljuks, and in the end they did not succeed in conquering Alamat. Finally, with the death of Malik Shah, his troops dispersed and the Ismailis rebuilt their military forces. In addition to terrorizing their enemies, the Ismailis also intimidated them. For example, one of the opponents of the Ismailis during this period was Imam Fakhr Razi. He is one of the greatest theologians of Islam, and his mastery of Islamic sciences is well known both in general and in particular. Fakhr Razi was a critic of the Ismaili sect, and the Ismailis sent one of their followers to intimidate him to study with him and stab him at the right time. The devotee in question went to the Imam and was his student for 7 months, and after finding him alone, he put a dagger on the Imam's throat, and the Imam repented and stopped speaking ill of the Ismailis. Hassan Sabah had ordered not to kill him, but only to scare him, and when he stopped speaking ill, the Ismailis also gave him gold and money. Death of Hassan Sabah. Hassan Sabah was able to maintain and expand Ismailia with this method, that is, terrorizing and intimidating opponents. During these years, he never left Alamat castle and always lived an ascetic life. Hassan Sabah had a large library in Alamat and knew Latin and Greek to some extent. He spent most of his time studying and worshipping, and his informants brought him the news of holy assassinations after praying. Hassan Sabah died in the year 518 AH corresponding to 503 AH in Alamat Castle. He was about 80 years old at the time of his death, and before his death, he chose Kia Bozorg as his successor and killed his male children so that they would not claim succession. You must have noticed the similarities between Hassan Sabah's rule and similar governments such as the Islamic Republic of Iran, the Taliban, ISIS, and the Syrian government. Probably, all the rulers of these countries are students and survivors of Hassan Sabah.